My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Ozark Season 2. Now, when I watched Ozark Season 1, I was very underwhelmed by it. It's mildly decent at best, but I don't get the praise it gets. It's got a strong performance from Jason Bateman, from Darlene, and from Julia Garno, but the rest of the show is just so meh. So I was hoping that season 2 would be the season to get me more on this show, to be like, yes, now this is a good show. And did it succeed? No. It's more of the same, if not a bit worse than the first season. Now I will say that the biggest surprise of this season is from the fact that when I was Googling the names afterwards to come up with notes for this review, I noticed that the family's name is the Boards. Byrdes. Not the Borgs. Like, I thought it was like Borg, Berg, like an iceberg, the Borgs. But no, I guess it's the Boards. So, I didn't know that, but anyways, this will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come back and watch my review, because I will be going in depth. Now, let's begin with what I did like, and it's the performances are still great. I love seeing Jason Bateman in this kind of role, and he's so good in it. And I wish we got more roles like this from him, because he really is great here. Lower Liney is once again great, but the standout this season is no doubt Julia Garno. She does such a great job this season. There are a few moments where she really got me to care for her character. Ruth's dad is out of jail, and we just get to see how awful of a person he is, and the escalating tension between Ruth and her dad was really well handled. And to see that contrast with her relationship with Marty and how he's become a father-like figure to her, and how he tries to help her out, and when she asks for something, he gives it to her. I really like the contrast between the two relationships, and when Marty finds out that Ruth tried to get him killed, you feel the weight of it. And when Ruth ends up getting tortured by the cartel because of Marty, you also feel the weight of that, and that is genuinely one of the most emotional moments in the show yet, easily. And I wish they played that up a bit more for the groundwork for the rest of the season, which I will get to in a bit. I also think the character of Wendy is much more compelling here. To go from a character who's trying to view herself as the victim in everything, to the character who's actively making things worse for everyone, for her to kind of become the villain of this story by the end of season 2, is the most compelling direction to take this character, and I like how they highlighted the gaslighting nature of her. And I also like it how we see how everything that's going on is having an effect on the kids and who they'll becoming. Like, there's one scene, it's a very small scene, but it's when Charlotte steals a book from a bookstore, and it could have just been a nothing scene, but it actually has something to say in how the environment that she's being raised in has an effect on who she's becoming. And I like seeing that explored. There's also one character from the first season, who I didn't really talk about in my review for the first season at all, but his name is Buddy. I don't really care for this character. I don't really think he added anything, but when he dies, it does bring some genuine emotion to the show, especially when Jonas and Wendy are speaking at his funeral. And there's one scene involving Mason where the last 10 minutes of that episode is really intense, where Marty is forced to kill a person to save his wife. And just the scene afterwards, it's probably the most human scene in this entire show, because he's not just like, he kills a man and then he hugs his wife and everything is fine. No, he kills a man and he's just like, oh man, like, he's broken up, and we really get to see that highlighted. That said though, I couldn't have cared less about Mason and everything going on with him. And for them to choose that moment to humanize Marty is certainly a choice when, like, 2 episodes prior, you had Ruth getting captured and tortured by the cartel, the people Marty is working with, and it's because of him. And I don't understand why they chose the Mason moment to humanize Marty instead of the Ruth moment, because that was something a lot more personal to the character. And also, we could have started to get that character development a bit earlier. I mentioned in my review for the first season that I didn't care about all the supporting characters, and that's still true now. I don't think they're interesting. I never cared for Mason. It took me a while to figure out that, like, who's this guy again? Right, that's the guy with the church. Okay. So, everything involving around him just held zero weight to me because I couldn't have cared less about the character. And in that episode where he holds Wendy captive, like I said, the last 10 minutes is really good, but the rest of the episode is just so redundant and just so overdone. Like, there's one scene where Wendy grabs the fire extinguisher, bangs him on the head, and then just runs away, and that was just such a stupid decision for a character who's been smarter than that all the way up until now. And then also this entire episode, it leads the boards, not the Borgs, the boards, taking in Mason's kid Zeke, and I didn't like this plot at all. Like, really, what's the point of Zeke? What's the point of this baby? Why does everyone care about this baby so much? Because I had zero investment in it. And they do spend some time on it, but it's just one of those plots, one of those characters that is just so unnecessary, that really makes the show feel bloated. Why does Darlene want Zeke so much? I'm certain it's been established up until this point, but not in a way that resonated with me at all, to the point where I can't remember why this baby means so much to her. And it's just one of those things that you could have easily done without. You also got Ruth's dad, and I mentioned in the fourth section that I do like the escalating tension between him and Ruth, and I do think they do write him well enough in certain areas of the show. But how they ended his story this season was so predictable. I saw it coming from a mile away. It lacked any sort of real impact. And for them to kill an abusive father-like figure to Ruth 2 seasons in a row now, it just feels really redundant, and I don't think we need that. Then we also got the character of Rachel, and I did not like the treatment of her at all. I don't think she's that interesting of a character. And her and Marty start to have an affair, where they kiss once and Marty develops feelings for her, and I just didn't buy it. Like, at no point up until their first kiss did I think there was anything going on between those two. I never saw those two as having any sort of chemistry or feelings for each other, so it just came out of nowhere for me. And she's wild, which does create some tension in this season, but there's one moment where she's trying to talk to Marty, but she's wild, so she's texting him instead, and I'm just like, can't the FBI see the text that she sends as well? So that made no sense to me. There's also one episode where it begins with her overdosing on this cocaine that's been laced with fentanyl. And the episode begins and we see her passed out on the ground. And then it cuts to 2 minutes prior. And then we see how she got on the ground. And then it cuts to like half an hour prior. And then we see how she got that cocaine. And then it cuts again. And this episode, I think it's episode 8, begins very non-linear, but my goodness, was the execution of it beyond messy and just lacked any sort of impact, and just so, it was really bad. Then we've also got the character Wyatt, who I don't really care for as a character. The show keeps telling us that he has potential. He can be more than everyone else in his family, but not once do I actually get that sense from him. And any moment when Wyatt sees his dad and starts to imagining him talking to him, I just thought those moments were really stupid. And Ruth telling Wyatt the truth about what happened to his dad just wasn't satisfying at all. Like, it's more satisfying when the character Wyatt, if he found out the truth by himself. Like, he kept bringing it up. What happened to my dad? I wish I knew what happened. And it'd be better if he started to do his own investigation and find out he was wild and finds out it was Ruth. But all that buildup just gets thrown away when Ruth just decides to tell him. So that moment lacked any sort of impact. I didn't like the entire subplot of Charlotte wanting to be emancipated. Does it make sense? Yes. But they made their choice at the end of season 1. Marty gives his entire family a chance to start anew, and they chose to stay. So for them to go back on that into wanting to leave the family again, it's just like, no, you made your choice. And the appearance of this plotline just feels really redundant to what we saw with the character in season 1. Just everything about this character feels like a backtrack, and there's a moment where she's just like, you know what, maybe I will stay with my parents. She has a change of heart, and it's like, where did this change of heart come from? What just happened that would have changed your mind? I didn't buy it at all. The villains in the show are once again really boring. We've got the girl with the cartel and the smells, and they're just as generic as they come. They added nothing to the show. There's a few guys that go into Marty's office at the end of the season, and they just come across as the most generic villains as well. Yeah, and then one other problem I have with this season is that there's quite a few times where someone's biking or someone's driving, someone's pulled over, they put up a barricade in the road, and then they attack or do something, and it's just something that's been so overdone in this show that I'm getting tired of it. But I haven't even mentioned the two main reasons why I didn't like this season. The first one is that I could not care less about the stupid casino. The casino is the main story for this season, and I couldn't have cared less about it. I had zero investment of it. Them trying to get people to vote for it, trying to stop those who won't, whatever, I found it to be remarkably boring. I prefer personal stories, more emotional stories, and I got none of that here. And then the other reason why this show continues to not impress me is that once again, they spend so much time on stuff that doesn't need that much time to. This entire season is 10 hours long, and it didn't need to be. This entire season could have easily been a movie. It could have easily been 2 episodes. You do not need to spend this much time on this story. So it's just unbelievably dragged out. Like, there is no justification, none whatsoever, for everything that has happened in this show so far to take 20 hours to tell it. There's no reason for it. There is not enough character work or plot to drive this story to these lengths. Like, it just blows my mind that people love this show as much as they do, when honestly, I'm 2 seasons in, and what's happened? Marty got his family into a bad predicament, so they go to the Ozarks to launder money. He meets a bunch of rednecks there, and he employs the daughter to help him out. The main cartel guy that he owed money to ends up getting killed. He now needs to help out the lady with the cartel. And during this time, Marty's been humanized a bit. Wendy has leaned into that darker side of herself. And yeah, like, that's the main story up until this point. You don't need all the supporting characters. You really don't, because they don't add any relevance to it. They don't add anything interesting to this show. I truly believe all 20 hours could be a 2-hour-long movie. I really believe that. Like, I'm going to keep watching the show, but my goodness, it is one of the most slowest, dullest shows there is. I do like some of the directions they're taking with the characters, but the unbelievable bloated time dedicated to this show with the lackluster, dull side characters that add nothing to it just really do make this a tough show to get to. So I'm going to go ahead and give Ozark Season 2 a 4 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Ozark Season 2? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.